Welcome back to Commission Reviews. We're back with real quick, ready to love Miami, and we have Tranika up here. We are so excited. We were trying to get her on before, but we just couldn't get the scheduling correct. But she is here, and of course, my last panel we had a lot to talk about when it came to Tranika. I think we all was out there windmilling my whole panel for Tranika in this last episode. So I want to just jump right in it. Okay, first of all, the exit. When you heard me on that little recording, or maybe you watched the whole panel, when I said I wouldn't have shown up, I said I feel like that was dirty to me that she had to do it twice. And the first time she was upset, which we didn't understand why you upset the first time, but the second time I've been so pissed, like literally, because this is the second time I'm doing this again. I said I wouldn't have shown up at all if I would have had an inkling or a hint. Now, people on the panel who did show before saying that you guys should have had a hint, and then you maybe just went because you had to go or whatever. So I want you to kind of jump in right there.
Okay, well, first, thank you for having me.
No.
Thank you so much for having me on your platform. I really appreciate it. Okay, so you want to know what happened the first elimination or the second elimination?
Both, because the first time we all trying to figure out why you were so upset, the first
Okay,
time.
so, all right, so for the first elimination, I was upset because Mike initially was acting like he was interested in me. So what you don't see is when we had the group date, when we went skating, there was a point where was skating with Mike, I was skating with Swayze, and Katie was like, "Oh, let's switch." So I was with Mike,
Okay.
Katie was with Swayze, and there was a part of the indoor amusement park where there's like a little selfie museum. So everybody was over by the selfie museum except for me and Mike. So I was like, "Hey, Mike, like, listen, I don't do fake and phony. Like, if there's nothing here, like, if you're not interested or anything like that, let's go join everybody else.
Mhm.
But if you like, if you feel like you found your person,
Right.
because Mike, was always with Brandy, and that's cool. Like, if you
100%.
found your person, like,
Right. 100%.
like, ain't nothing to me. Yeah. And I said, but if, you want to talk and get to know me, then we could stay here. And he was like, oh, well, let's just go join everybody else. And I was like,
Mm.
okay. So then I learned while we were there that when we had a brunch, Mike had an issue with me telling him that he was all booed up at the brunch, because he really was.
Oh,
Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, he was
right.
like in the corner talking to Brandy for the longest, and that's fine. But he had an issue with me saying that to him. So I was like, well, why didn't you just say that then? I wouldn't have said that. Like, he
100%.
had an issue with me always saying, like, he's always booed up. But we had already established, like, there's no connection here. And before he even revealed that to me, he was holding out his hands, and I was like, Mike, what? Like, he just wasn't talking. I was like, talk. And then he was doing like this. I was like, what are you talking about? And so he was like, oh, well, I had a date with Shakira, and we went to go see a psychic, and she had to see our hands. So I was like, Mike, I can't read your mind. So that's when I kind of learned, like, I had kind of like a glimpse of, okay, wait a minute, something's not right here, as far as him thinking that I was a mind reader. But anyway, so now I show up to this date and I see Mike, so I knew something was up. Because when you get called, you even know like, either you're going to be eliminated or you're just going to get a warning, right?
Right. Right.
So my Sunday was already interrupted. At this point, there's 5 men, and out of the 5 men, I'm in communication with 3. The
Mm.
only 2 I was not in communication with was Mike and Swayze. Didn't even have their number. And
Mm.
every time we had like a group get together, I would always, talk to everybody.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
would approach everyone because I'm
Right.
going outside of my comfort zone. But anyway,
100%.
so
Yeah.
I enter, and Mike is literally acting like he wants to get with me, and we're about to plan we're about to get ready for the getaway trip. So
Okay.
that's when you see
Weird.
me say, like, yeah, so that's when you see me say, let's get right to it. But what they didn't show is me saying, like, I don't do the fake and phony. Like, we already established that me and you are just friends. They never showed that. They just showed me saying, like, let's get right to it. It's editing, whatever. Whatever. I
But
was
you
still
can tell.
pissed.
But
Like
you can
that.
tell.
I own
You
that.
can tell. You can tell. No, when you
Yeah,
said
yeah, yeah.
let's get right to it, you can tell it's like the book. I don't want to. You could just tell the energy you were giving was 100% that. We was like, what is happening? She doesn't give that all the time. It's
Yes.
got something going on. So that's what everybody was feeling. That's why we
Yes.
was like so much energy. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so in that case, it was because I'm like, why is he lying in my face? Like, come on now. Like, I like when people keep it real with me. That's the type of person I am. So then he, goes into the reasons why the men had me up for elimination. So I was upset about the reason, like what he was saying, the reasons were because they were lies.
Mm,
So he said that so he said the men said, oh, well, you're not putting in effort, you're not communicating with them. So that's when I said that, I'm sorry, I got to defend myself. I said, that's a crock of sugar, honey, iced tea.
yeah, you did.
So that was one of the things he said. And then he was like, "Oh, and then your other connections feel like maybe you're giving one connection more time than the other." And I was like, "That's also, that's BS." So I start naming receipts, like letting him know, like I don't even have your number.
Huh?
Like I went up to you, because what they didn't show was him saying like, "Oh yeah, I saw your Instagram." I said, "Oh, so you saw that like I'm not a square," because he thought
Right,
at
right.
the brunch when me and him were talking, he had mentioned that I was reserved. I was like, "I'm not reserved." Like that's just not me. Like I'm a bubbly person, very gregarious and lively. I just know how to
Energy.
act in
Hmm.
certain places. That's all. So, anyways, so they didn't show that. So when he had mentioned seeing my Instagram, I said, "Yeah, but you're not following me." But they
Mm,
didn't show that. So these are like, you see how somebody playing in your face would piss you off.
yes. And
So
we know
so
about the
when
editing, girl.
I yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Like, it's not that I didn't say those words. I own everything that I said. I
Okay.
meant everything that I
Mm,
said. Um, I understand that because, this is a show, everything has to, be condensed and help flow or whatever for, the storyline or whatever.
yes.
I get it.
Yes. Hmm.
Okay. So I own everything 100%. I'm just giving you guys more context so that you know that I didn't go in there just going off. That's not what happened. I'm not that type of person. I go off when Tranika goes off is because somebody tried me. Someone disrespected me. I don't like anyone coming from my character. I don't like anyone lying to me. I don't like anyone disrespecting me. I'm a non-confrontational person. I don't start no stuff. So like I'm all about peace and harmony, but I will also defend myself. I am sugar, I am spice. That is how I
100%.
am.
And cinnamon, let's go.
So it got to a point. I'm sorry.
I said, cinnamon, let's go. I said, you said the spices you were mentioning. I was like, you're saying you're
Yes.
cinnamon?
Yes. So in this case with Mike, it just got to a point because he didn't have anything to say. I mean, the next day he called me and even admitted like he had to make up stuff because he knew it wasn't true, and he was like they had to put somebody in the bottom, so he mentioned my name and everybody else went with it. That's what he told me. It's whatever. So, he had to go to the back because they was trying to find strategies to like, I guess, calm me down or whatever. But my thing is, if they would have been honest and just said like, hey, um, majority of the guys, you're not their top connections or whatever, I would have been okay with that.
Right.
Like, just be honest.
Hmm.
Like, don't lie to me. Just be honest. But because I knew the efforts, the real efforts that I was putting in to get to know everyone, to really, do the process, coming out of my comfort zone, because I don't approach men. Like, I don't do that
Right.
stuff. But
Right.
it's kind of like I need someone to meet me halfway. I'm not going to chase after you. If you're not interested, that's fine. But don't sit up here and act like I didn't make any effort when I know there's two guys that I don't even communicate with when we're not filming.
So there's just a lot of,
So it was just, yeah. And then on top of that, when you think about it, at this point, I have two connections. There were people who just had one connection. So why am I at the bottom?
good question.
There was more than one person with just only one connection. So why am I at the bottom? Does that make sense?
No,
No,
no.
it doesn't. But either way, I just didn't like the fact that I was being lied to. And as far as the elimination date with Randall, earlier that day, because the Gentleman's Lounge happened the same day that we left the getaway.
Okay.
So Randall and I had a conversation off camera. And Randall was, telling me how he was feeling or what have you, and felt about me. But because I knew that I was up for elimination last time, and LJ being eliminated, and he was my strongest connection, and me and Randall was at a point of kind of like repairing us because they never showed a date that I had with Randall before, where
Okay.
I was kind of like it was after the all white party, and I checked Randall because I'm like, hey, you're not being consistent with me, kind of thing. But we were able to hash things out and decided to start over on a clean slate. But that was, that episode was never aired. But anyway, so Randall and
Oh,
I had a talk. He came into my room, whatever. It was in the morning time, like before the cameras came, and we were talking. And so he was telling me, how he felt, and I was like, well, I see how he feels about me or what have you, but I knew that there was a high chance that I would be up for elimination. And he was like, no, because, there was another castmate who was always up for elimination every single week. And that person only had one connection. And I said, well, if she's been up for elimination every single week and has not been eliminated, that means she's not going to be eliminated.
right.
So, and I was like, yeah, so that puts me at risk. And plus, there was a lot of clicks and stuff in the group, and it's fine. Like I'm a loner. That's just kind of like how I am. Like I get
Mhm.
along with everybody kind of thing. So I'm not like a clicky person. But there were friend groups within my cast. And that's fine. Friends look out for each other. Is whatever, right?
Yes.
So now it's time for elimination. I get the call that I got a date. Randall sends me a text message telling me that he's going out on a date. Like, he's I'm going to be the person that he's going to see. So to me, that's kind of like him giving me reassurance, especially after the kind of conversation that me and him had earlier that day. So
Wow.
then I sit down and he's telling me, how much he likes me and want to continue and all this other stuff. So it's kind of like, okay, you're giving me some type of reassurance, but then you turn the script. So it's just like, okay, you was just playing in my face. Like,
So I can see
so
why
it's
you
just
felt like
like,
that.
yeah, but they never show like I left and I came back. They never showed me coming back. So what they did
What?
was they merged my reactions from both times. But
Gotcha.
yeah, but I was upset. And when I told him don't, because at first he was touching my hand, but I'm the type of person, I know that I have very big energy.
Okay.
So when I'm happy, you're going to feel it. When I'm angry, you're going to feel it. And I'm very responsible for my energy. So when I know that I'm angry, I don't want anybody touching me because I don't want that energy to rub off. And
Right.
most of the time that I was there with Randall, I was quiet.
Mm.
I was quiet. And I'm like, why am I here? Like, what do you guys want me to say? Like, what you want me to do? So who's left in the house are two people that I was just told earlier you're not connecting with. But
Wow.
yeah, I'm getting eliminated. That doesn't make any sense to me. So either way, I mean, it is what it is. It is, yeah.
It is.
That's how it was. So it's not like I was cursing them out. It's not like
Right.
I was yelling or anything. It was just like no, like, and so when you hear me saying, I don't want to hear it, I did allow him to speak, and I did cut him off a little bit, but it was kind
Yeah.
of like, okay, you was just, he could have gave me a heads up. He didn't want to do it. I understand, he wasn't put in the best situation
Right.
either, but I didn't like how everything
You spoke your
played
truth.
out.
You spoke
And
your truth. You
yeah,
like
I
how
spoke
it's
my truth. Yeah, I stand by everything. Like this is me. And I understand there are people who may feel like throughout me being on the show that I wasn't my authentic self. No, I was definitely my authentic self. I think that everybody has different sides to them, like when you're angry or upset or what have
like.
you. And it had nothing to do with being rejected. It had everything to do with lying to me. And then, I eventually learned that some of the men didn't want to interact with me because they thought I was psychic. Like it was just this big old thing
Oh
that was kind of
wow.
like heartbreaking.
Hmm.
And, LJ defended me and Justice defended me. Um, and so I was happy that I had, some connections that in my absence that
Right.
they spoke for me, and one of, my castmates who felt that way eventually apologized to me at the reunion, but I don't think he was aware that I was told what was going on.
Wow. That's a lot, and not a lot in a good
Yeah.
way. But I'm happy you were able to come on and get the background and clear things up. And 'cause of course we was right there rooting for you, but it's also for the panel who we'll get to see
Thank
later
you.
on. it will be able to really get the backstory. And so, yeah, I can't wait to the reunion to see what's going to be popping after that. Hopefully, I can have some of you guys back on again to have a
Of
discussion.
course.
I'm sure it's going to be more open at the time, and you got to be more free to be, move around, say some things. But again, Mama, thank you for coming off too real quick with Commission
All right.
Reviews.
Thank you for having me. I
No problem,
appreciate
baby.
you.
Have a good day.